have 20 minutes. We're going to do a little Bitcoin debate. Is Bitcoin all the value in the crypto ecosystem? Yes or no? That will be our kind of quick debate. We'll cover some other topics too, but we have 20 minutes until the foreign minister is presenting. So quick introductions. I'm Ben Kasnoka, partner at Village Global, early stage venture firm. We have Saif here, who's a best-selling author and noted thought leader on all things Bitcoin. We have Marco, the chief legal officer of Kraken, one of the key crypto exchanges, and Björn, the CEO of Parity Technologies, a blockchain company. So Saif, let's start with you. Tell us why buy Bitcoin is the most important advice that any of us can take today.
The simple answer is I look at the market for money as a market of a $300 trillion total addressable market. And I think of that as being the physical cash, checking accounts, and government bonds and gold. If you look at the valuation of that, that's about $300 trillion worldwide. And if you look at the performance of these four assets as compared to Bitcoin over the last 10 years, 5 years, any kind of time horizon longer than a couple of months, basically Bitcoin outperforms all of these things massively. So people who are looking for money, which is a $300 trillion market, are going to discover that Bitcoin does that job far better. So this, for me, is maybe a not once in a generation, maybe once in a species opportunity, where we're getting an entire remonetization of, or rebasing of the monetary system on a new financial asset, which is being born out of nowhere. Currently, it's worth about $1 trillion. The total addressable market is about $200 to $300 trillion. So there's an enormous growth potential. That's why I think Bitcoin is so important. And of course, it's money that prevents, that gives you freedom. It allows you to send money anywhere. It's free from censorship. It's decentralized. Doesn't require political central authority to mandate it and to make it work.
And within the broader crypto ecosystem, blockchain, et cetera, how much value is there outside of just Bitcoin, the currency?
The way that I see it is really Bitcoin is the only one that has a claim to being decentralized, and the only one that doesn't have a kill switch that governments or nefarious actors can turn off, because all the others, I don't think they've managed to illustrate that. And I think the more
other coins.
The other coins, yes.
And what about blockchain more broadly or other use cases? How bullish are you on those?
Well, I mean, I've been extremely skeptical of the idea that other uses could come for Bitcoin. And here we are, it's been 16 years exactly to the day, since the blockchain technology was born, if you want, since Satoshi released his white paper. And Bitcoin continues to be the only working application with commercial application that's not really promising things that are going to come. The only exception I would say that I would have been wrong about is Tether. Tether has proved to be reliable, and it's worked so far, and it's growing enormously in demand. But ultimately, I see the rest as being speculative casino chips, where people are gambling on whether this coin is going to get rugged first or that coin is going to get rugged first.
So Björn, what's going through your head as you hear this?
I think there's large parts of predominantly the first part, which I agree with, right? Like Bitcoin is an interesting asset, right? Like I think we've all recognized it's a alternative store of value. Like you can look at it at digital codes, but it has failed, in my opinion, to deliver a lot of the other promises that it came forward with, right? Like be it a good asset as unit of exchange, like a medium.
Bitcoin is great as digital gold, you said, but it's failed on its other promises.
Exactly, and there's one element that makes me a bit uncomfortable in the long term is the economic viability of providing its security in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin today is basically the security properties are subsidized by block rewards, right? But as we all know, Bitcoin has a fixed supply cap, right? And each year the emissions are going down, proportionally. And at some point, they're going to converge towards zero. So will the rewards, right, that are being given to Bitcoin miners at that time be sufficient for all these resources to be allocated to secure Bitcoin? That is unproven as so far, right? And the only thing that could save Bitcoin at that point is if the accumulative fees that are generated, right? So the fees that are generated by people being willing to pay for a transfer of a Bitcoin will be sufficiently high cumulatively to pay for these security properties. And I think that's where, we've been innovating, like the space has been innovating now for almost 15 years. And we've found, in my opinion, computer scientists, researchers, engineers have found a lot better ways to provides certain resilience properties, I think, that we are looking for when we look at these systems. And I think, Bitcoin is very much behind on using the best means to achieve these properties.
So you're bullish on a lot of other use cases of crypto in the world, and then as it relates to coins, like is your personal portfolio diversified across a set of coins, or are you mostly at Bitcoin, or what's your?
No, so my personal portfolio is very much, diversified across different areas, right? Bitcoin is included in that, and again, I think it has its place, right? But again, I want to distinguish between the application and the infrastructure it runs on, right? Bitcoin, the application, is store of value, digital gold. It could run on many of these infrastructures in principle, right? It's kind of social consensus that we all believe this will have value tomorrow, right? But why does it work so well with Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin has been around for the longest. And if you just have been around for the longest, it gives this trust to the people that it will be around tomorrow, right? And so that's where every other application or infrastructure is behind, right?
So we'll come to Marco in a sec, but just say, do you want to respond to that argument? Is Bitcoin just digital gold for you, or is it more than that?
No, I think it's more than gold, it's money. And I think gold is money in a sense. But I think the important thing is that Bitcoin is decentralized, and so Bitcoin can claim to be truly digital, decentralized currency. If it's not decentralized, this is my problem with all the other coins, if it's not decentralized, you might as well be using somebody's personal database. And it's much more efficient to run things in a centralized platform. I know there are things out there in the world other than just money. Money is a $300 trillion market, but there are other markets in the world. But none of these other markets need their own money. And I think the idea that an application needs its own currency is a very convenient story for people who want to sell a currency that they make essentially out of thin air. So Bitcoin continues to be the only one that nobody can make out of thin air, nobody can centrally control, nobody can confiscate or censor. And it continues to be the one that has always been fair. From day one, everyone has always had the same chance to be able to produce Bitcoin. No other coin has done that, because if you've heard about any of the other coins, you've only heard about it because there's a central team that has been actively promoting it. They pre-mined it and they use those proceeds to continuously promote the coin. And that just makes it not centralized and therefore under central control.
Can I respond to that? I think there's decentralization is a means to an end, right? The property we want is not decentralization. We want the property of resilience. Resilience against malicious behavior, against the expectations that we have towards the system being broken, right? And so you want resilience, for example, against single or few geopolitical actors to change the rules of the system, right? To take away your money, to take away your coin, for example, for any hacker to be able to change the rules and so forth. That's the properties you want. Now, decentralization is a means to get there. I think this is really important, right? And decentralization, if you look at these systems, right, in what areas they may be decentralized or centralized, there are many different areas, right? You could say from an economic perspective, right? What's the distribution of these coins? Who holds how many, right? Often measured in Gini coefficient, more or less, right? It could be from a technical perspective. How many parties are involved in validating that the integrity of the system is maintained, right? And I would say, for example, on that metric, right, of decentralization, Bitcoin actually looks a lot worse than most other systems, right? If you just look purely on from a measure of like, how many economic actors in the world would you need to convince today or put a gun at their head, right, in order to make changes to the Bitcoin ledger? It would be less in Bitcoin than, for example, for systems such as Ethereum or Polkadot.
Nonsense. Ethereum's already changed and hard forked many times. It's a small group of people that hard fork it, and that's the most decentralized of all the altcoins. Bitcoin's never been hard fork. It's almost impossible to make a hard fork with Bitcoin. I think that's really the only metric that matters. How many people do you have to put a gun to their head to change to hard fork this network? The answer for Bitcoin is no number. There's no number of people that you can shoot and get them to change Bitcoin. You can kill people, but that won't change Bitcoin. Anybody who wants to run the Bitcoin code can do it.
Do you want to respond, and then we'll go to Marco? Go for it.
Well, there are means to measure that today, right? And we know, we have a means to measure how the mining power in Bitcoin is distributed around the world and which parties stand behind it, right? And we have a means to, assess that in proof-of-stake systems as well, such as Ethereum or Polkadot, right? And my stance is it has been shown and shown again that the number is significantly higher in these other systems. But
But fair. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Marco, what's your perch on from the Kraken perch? What are you seeing in the Bitcoin debate?
Okay, so Kraken, so we all know, is an international financial services company. We're an exchange. So you come to Kraken with your dollars, your euros, whatever, and you want Bitcoins. We match you with someone who has euros and dollars, or who has Bitcoins and wants your euros and dollars, right? It's a very straightforward business model. We support over 200 of these assets globally, some in different jurisdictions. Obviously, we don't think there is one true asset. But at the same time, we don't think there's value in all of those assets around. So I am not only physically between these two, but also intellectually between, and spiritually and philosophically between these two cultists who I respect, deeply. You have the philosophy of Bitcoin maximalism here that says, look, there is one true chain. It is Bitcoin. It will forever be the only true chain, and the rest is a waste of time. And then you have basically a lot of other folks who believe some version of the philosophy that Bitcoin is not the one true chain. So at Kraken, if we believed Bitcoin was the one true chain, we would have one market. We don't. We have hundreds of markets.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, I disagree. I fully disagree with that statement. I think it's absolutely preposterous to think there will be one chain going forward forever. I think it's religious thinking, not practical thinking. Realistically, there are different use cases for blockchain technology. That is axiomatic. And because there are different use cases for blockchain technology, there will be different implementations for blockchain technology. Now, if I'm an investor, personally, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time following all of this drama, I just buy Bitcoin and I forget about it. I'm with Safe on this, 100%. If you're not going to follow each of the goings-on with all of these thousands of different ecosystems, which I personally find very interesting and intellectually stimulating and potentially financially lucrative, if I don't want to do all that, I buy Bitcoin and I forget about it, and I never sell. I diamond hand it. I hodl, which is an expression you might have heard.
Is your prediction?
However, let me just wrap it up. If I am interested, I do a lot more. I look at Polkadot. I look at other ecosystems out there that potentially have a lot of future value. But because I've been ragging on Safe for a little bit, I have to switch to Björn and say that value is utterly unproven. Utterly unproven. There's a whole lot of hope and dreams out there of what these other chains might be able to do one day, but they haven't done it yet. And anybody who tells you that they have is trying to sell you one. So my view of the ecosystem, which is to get around to the question you asked, my view of the ecosystem is that there will be different use cases for blockchain technology and therefore different implementations. If you want to trade meme coins, if you think your picture of a duck is better, is a better financial investment than that guy's picture of a dolphin, use Solana. It's a fantastic implementation for that. But if you want the hardest money in the world, the hardest money in history, the kind of reserve assets that central banks will be relying on in maybe 10 years, you use the Bitcoin blockchain. But you don't use one for the other. It just doesn't make sense. You don't need Bitcoin security to trade meme coins. You need Solana's speed. And if you want to hold the hardest money that this world has ever known, you're crazy to put it on Solana because it's nowhere near as secure as Bitcoin.
So, Safe, is your argument that the other chains will, you said enjoy it while it's last?
Well, 99.9% of other coins have already gone to zero in terms of Bitcoin. So the idea that there's a vibrant ecosystem out there for you to invest in is completely false. Empirically, the vast majority of money that has gone into shitcoins, as they are technically known, has gone to zero.
The legal term.
The legal term, yes. The vast majority. So the few ones that you see at the top of the coin market page that are close to Bitcoin, these are extreme exceptions, and they've managed to be there because of very active marketing by centralized authorities, by people who go to conferences and speak about the chains that they basically run. And so that's a model where they put the coin up for sale and market it, and the idea is to keep the coin valuable as much as possible so they can sell as much of the pre-mine as possible. But that's all based on hopes and dreams. That's the idea that one day we're going to be able to do this or we're going to be able to do that. They've not done this, and the vast majority of coins have collapsed. So I think serious investors have no business looking at all of the other stuff. I think it's completely unproven.
Well, it's funny you say serious investors, because Marco's point was, if you're a serious investor, look at the ecosystem. If you're an amateur investor, just buy Bitcoin. I guess you would say buy Bitcoin if you're serious or amateur.
Yeah, pretty much.
Raise your hand if you own Bitcoin today. Okay, and then put your hands down, and then raise your hand if you own any other coin. Okay. Yeah, so that's interesting. So we are now wrapping up out of time because the foreign minister's here, but a fantastic, albeit brief, conversation and spirited debate, and much more to get into. Just curious, Saif, tell us about your writings quickly. Where can people learn more about your philosophy?
The Bitcoin Standard is my first book, translated to 38 languages, sold more than 1 million copies. I've also written the Fiat Standard and Principles of Economics, and I'm working on a 4th fiction book now called The Gold Standard.
Nice. And Björn, where can people learn more about your point of view on this?
My point of view on what? I don't usually
on blockchain.
I don't usually speak against Bitcoin, right? Because I very much agree with the utility of it, right?
But where are you online? Where can we find you?
On x.com, for example, Björn Wagner.
Okay. All right, cool. And then Marco, the pitch for Kraken: log on, set up an account, and
learn more.
Learn more.
Learn more, or go to marcosantori.com, and you have my Twitter, and you can get real weird with that, or just shoot me an email. Otherwise, of course, it's kraken.com.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.